Hello there, my name is Jo Baldwin-Trott and this is the Amijo show. We are still in the Stuck series because we are still in lockdown. But today I have on the show a very special guest, someone who's not too far from me in London, and she has been a member of a network that I am too for a long time. And so we met there a long while ago, and I'm thrilled to not only be a client of Annetta's, but also to have known her on a personal level too. So welcome, Annetta Apol.
Thank you, Jo. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Well, coming in, what am I talking about? In my head, I'm already in a studio, you see. So thanks for coming on the show. And it's great to have you on because I really have personally, which I'll come on to in a little bit, have a very strong gratitude for your work, and I've always believed in it. But Annetta is an intergenerational therapist. So as it sounds, she literally helps people to overcome the trauma, the difficulties that they face in this life that may have come from their previous ancestors, maybe even their previous ancestors. They're very, very powerful work through constellation work. So it's been a phenomenal journey for me myself. But Annetta, let's start with how you're getting on right now. What's happening with you in this incredible, difficult times?
Well, I think as most of us really, I am spending a lot of time at home. Just going out for my daily walk, daily exercise, really. And yes, I mean, of course, I'd love to go out again and love that freedom of just going wherever I want to go. And I had a lot of journeys booked, plane journeys and travels for all sorts of reasons. And of course, none of that is going ahead. And although I'm missing that as well, there's also a part of me that's actually quite happy not to have to rush around so much. Yes, I have this feeling that I was cramming in a lot, which, you know, is all exciting and interesting to do, but it's also a lot of running around and just finding myself coming a little bit more to stillness, although I'm working a lot behind my laptop at the moment. The pace is different. I feel like I'm getting more my own pace, own rhythm.
Yeah, oh, that's really good. I totally get that. Actually, that's how I feel. Really feel a bit more in control of everything. I don't feel like I'm kind of responding. I feel like I'm kind of being more choosing to do what I want to when I want to as well. Yeah, because obviously your family aren't in the UK, so you must be missing them. It must be really hard to not be able to see them.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting because my sister had a journey booked here. She was going to come over here in April with her husband, and I was going to go to a birthday, which was just a few weeks ago, and neither of those things are happening, of course. So yeah, so my mother is older, of course, as well, so I was going to go and see her, and none of this is happening. And yeah, that can be hard in a way as well. It's like, you know, just not being able just to go and see friends and family that you usually see, and I do miss that. I do notice that. I do really miss that.
Well, hopefully it won't be too long before you can see them again. Hopefully. But you've actually been making use of your time in other ways as well as working, haven't you? Because you've actually submitted a chapter to my second book that I'm publishing called Silver Linings. It's all about the feel-good stories, about the good news stories that are coming out of lockdown. And you found quite a few interesting, some very new sort of inspirational ways to spend your time, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes. One of them in particular has been just really surprising, and that is that I've started writing some poetry, which is something I've never really done. I mean, I did a few maybe over the last year, but just very here and there. And you know, I've always had some sort of fascination with poetry, even though I don't necessarily know much about it. Haven't necessarily read very much either. But it was always a draw. And even late last year, I asked a friend of mine about this because he does this poetry stuff and he goes to a poetry cafe and all of those things. And I was really fascinated. And I still didn't take any action of going onto a course or anything like that. And yeah, I found, sort of coming, I guess, into my own stillness and slowing down and dropping a little bit deeper in as well. It almost feels like a bit of a meditation practice for me in a way. And then just found the words were coming. And yeah, it was just really surprising.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, so again, I've been writing songs for years, but writing songs is different to writing poetry. Obviously, I think some can be similar, but same. So, and I've actually come across, I think, 4 other friends now who have also found themselves writing poetry. Just come to them. It's just literally been something that's just come through them, and they've written it down, and actually, it's not bad. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. Do you have any of your poetry to hand?
I'll have to make a dash and to see if I can grab a little book that I write them in, or I have them on my laptop as well. Actually, I could maybe pull something up. It feels quite personal. I have shared them a bit on Facebook, and every time I do it, I go like, oh, I want to take it off again. But I've left it on. It was interesting as well that it felt like it really had to go out. So not just to keep it personally, but just to send it out there. So I have done that a bit. But it feels also quite, you know.
I totally agree, and I think it's worse than my song, because I've written songs, and when I hear someone sing my song, that's personal. But the poetry is even more. I don't know. I think that comes from even deeper place in us. I really agree with that. We'll get to read your poem in one of your poems in the Silver Linings book, anyway.
Yes. I mean, I could share one if you like, but yeah.
Yeah, no, do, and maybe read it out. That'd be lovely.
Well, I'm just going for one that's popping up here, so I have no idea. So it's Cracked Open, it's called.
You can share your screen.
Can I share my screen? I don't quite know how I do this.
Do you know?
Can I do that as well as not being the host of this share?
It's up to you now. I've just clicked on the right thing, so you should be able to.
Where is it? There we go. Let's see. I don't know. Is it there or?
Yep, it is. Do you want to read it?
There we go.
Out.
Do you want me to read it? Shall I read it?
I'd love you to.
Yeah, so cracked open, deep cracks, crumbling outer shell of protection, safety, showing vulnerability, shyness, not knowing, tender inside, new eyes looking into a different world, tentative steps, landing on new ground, will I be held.
Oh, thank you. Lovely.
Thank you.
Well read, as I put you on the spot. That's a bit mean, wasn't it? Sometimes it's best though. Sometimes it's best. No time to get worried about it.
That's it. Exactly. Yes.
Oh.
Do I go back to the screen? Stop share. There we go.
Yeah. Right. Great. Thank you. Oh no, thank you for sharing. It's lovely. Really nice. So let's come on to what you do, because obviously you work with Ancestral Healing, and you really help people let go of blockages that most people probably didn't even realize were there. Tell us a bit about what you do.
Yes, it's almost just 2 parts to this. So one is the ancestral healing in a way. I mean, it's really healing ourselves, and just also recognizing that the things that the difficulties in our lives, so it could be in our relationships or in our work, it's often repetitive patterns, things that keep coming back. They may not just have to do with us, the root cause may well be in our ancestral history, in our family history. And so there are ways of dealing with that, and that's one of the things that I do is looking at, it's really the dynamics that underlie our difficulties. And there's certain dynamics that keep coming back in families, for sure, especially if difficult things have happened. Say somebody dies really young, children die young. War, of course, I think we all know, has a big impact. If someone lost a family fortunes like several generations ago, it can still have an impact now on, maybe feeling that we never earn enough, or we cannot earn enough money. Or maybe we become a gambler or somehow lose all our money ourselves. So there's certain repetitive patterns in a way, behaviors even, and emotions that we can take on from our ancestors in a way. Yeah, And the way I work with it is that your family doesn't have to be there, so that's usually a relief for people to know. So I tend to work one-on-one, and I've done a lot now online as well, and it works just as well. And yeah, it's a lot with dialogue, working with dialogue, and I track people, you know, what's happening in their bodies, what's happening emotionally, and bring all of that in as well. Yeah,
fantastic. Because one of the comments you just made just there was about the war, and about, obviously, I've had so many discussions with friends and expert psychologists about the long-lasting impact of war and loss. And obviously we're losing incredible amounts of people right now, which is just terrible. But going back to the war, it's, you know, the violence and the aggression and the suppression, and obviously the concentration camps, and all of that is ancestral, isn't it? You know, it's all there. It doesn't just disappear just because we're 3 generations down. And I think, you know, it's sad that we haven't actually validated that enough. I don't think, especially in countries like the UK, where, you know, there was a lot of oppression afterwards, and obviously in Eastern countries. You know, and I watched The Pianist the other night, which is just such a powerful movie, and you just think, well, gosh, that's so much distress and disturbance to watch and deal with as a human, and then for it not to manifest. What do you think about that? Do you think there's a relevance to that, and what's happened way back that can come into our lives?
Yeah, so I definitely think so. I mean, it's not just my own thinking. I'm reading books, and I, you know, go to various people who talk about this and work with this as well. And even now, you know, I mean, you can even see now with what's happening with the COVID, and we're all having to be at home and can't go about our usual way of living. You know, there's a lot of fear around, and the fear is not necessarily to do with this situation, but it may be fear from, you know, earlier from our lives or from previous things that happened. So war, of course, there will be a lot of fear, and it can sort of trigger those early things that we haven't really resolved as a person, but also as a society as well. You know, there's certain patterns, there's certain ways that we deal with things as a society, and we say it's normal. But a lot of it is trauma informed. I think even the rushing around, you know, I notice it myself, that constant rushing around and constant having to be somewhere else rather than just being here and be with this moment in a way. Still doing stuff, but, you know, we always have to be somewhere else. And I recognize this in myself. And I know that for me, this is definitely a trauma response as well. You know, response of something that it feels really hard to be with what is here right now. You want to be elsewhere.
A huge lesson of mindfulness right now, aren't we? Even if we don't necessarily realize it, we really are, because we haven't had a lot of choice. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Annetta. It's always fascinating to hear more about your work. I've had a session with you which was so powerful. Goodness me. I mean, I can remember it very clearly. It was very, very impactful, and instantly as well. Yeah, so I really rate your work, and I rate your ethics and the way you work. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing. I think we all have it, unfortunately. It just is part of who we are. And the sooner we can get the right help to clear it, especially I work a lot with leaders, mentor a lot of leaders, and I think, you know, the nature of the beast, when you're trying to lead, it's because you feel like you've got something to prove in a way. But actually, where does that something to prove come from? Something probably happened to you that wasn't very fair. And that's definitely my own story. So I've definitely chosen my path to go to prove that almost. But I've realized, you know, my work with you, a theta healer as well, Debbie Talalay, she's in our network as well, you know, that all this work really helps you to get clarity and feel completely whole as just you, without that almost lingering baggage that is like hanging on around behind you. It's just like, God, go away now, get out of here already.
Yeah, exactly. And it is really hopeful, I think, to know that you know, we don't have to be stuck with all of this. You know, there are ways actually of dealing with it, and like you said, just to come back to our real selves in a way. I feel that that's very much been my journey, just to come back to who I really am. It's still ongoing as well, but I really recognize that. Yeah, so letting go of all that baggage, just throwing the stones out one by one, and it becomes lighter. And yeah,
They weren't your suitcases in the first place, you know. They were someone else's. It's like, you know, ditch them, get rid of them, get them to the charity shop. They can go now. Oh, fantastic. Nice mention of the word stuck, because obviously this is the series right now of the Amijo show. It's still called Stuck, because we're still stuck at the moment. How can people get hold of you, Annetta? What's the best way?
So either through my website, which is my name, AnnettaApol.com, email Annetta@AnnettaApol.com.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think those are probably the best ways, in a way. Yeah.
And you as well. So, yeah. Fantastic. And obviously you can hear Annetta's chapter in the book Silver Linings, which will be out next month, which is really exciting. So we'll be in touch again, but thank you very much for coming on the show, Annetta. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jo, for having me. Yeah, it's been really lovely. Pleasure.
And I look forward to getting more of your poetry. And you read it out beautifully, by the way. I think you have your own podcast show with Annetta's poetry. But there we go. Thanks very much, and take care. Thanks for watching, and please comment below if you enjoyed the show, if you've got anything to say or share to do with what Annetta said, or anything that's been raised about this show, because obviously this is powerful stuff. So please reach out to Annetta. She'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm Jo Baldwin-Trott. That was the Amijo show, and thank you for watching.